Good evening, everyone. My name is John Boswell. I'm the Associate Athletic Director for Marketing and Promotions, and thank you for joining us for tonight's Friday Night Lights. We're going to go through a couple of championship soccer teams from 08 and 16. Tonight's event is presented by Jeanne D'Arc Credit Union, so big thank you to JDCU for all their support. Tonight will be hosted by Bob Ellis. I'll turn it over to Bob in just a moment, but feel free to use the webinar chat tonight. You can talk to us on the panel, and I'll hide myself, so it's just the real panel, or anybody else. And if you have questions, you can use them through either the webinar chat or the Q&A. At this point, I'll turn it over to Bob. We are recording tonight, so if you do have to hop off, we'll get a recording out to you at the end, and we'll talk to you later. Bob, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, John, and good evening and welcome. My name is Bob Ellis. This is Friday Night Lights, the Men's Soccer League Championship Edition, I suspect is what we should call it. As these United States continue to battle a national health crisis, college sports, as we know, for the most part, not everywhere, but for the most part, have been put on hold. All of our lives have undergone some sort of change, and we hope that Friday Night Lights will help fill the void, keep you in touch with UMass Lowell athletics, and of course, we hope it'll provide for some fun as well. I hope with this high-tech gathering, we find you safe, healthy, and in good spirits. Tonight, we will focus on two men's soccer regular season championships, the 2008 and 2016 titles. Both ended with a celebration, but the circumstances surrounding each were markedly different and without question, I guess would be described as unique. The 2008 Riverhawks finished their conference schedule, and that is in the Northeast 10, with a 9-3-1 record to earn what was the program's first ever Northeast 10 regular season championship. The win that clinched it was a 2-0 shutout of Southern New Hampshire. The team overall was 13-4-4 and would go on to the NCAA tournament, winning twice before the season ended with a double overtime loss to Dowling. The 2016 regular season championship was far different. The team was now in Division I. It was playing in America East, and it was not eligible for either the America East or the NCAA tournaments. So the regular season was it, period. That's it. And what a season it was. 5-1-1 in conference play, 13-1-2 overall. Also, kind of the difference between these 2 years, if you look at it, the histories leading up to it. The 2008 team entered the season with 9 straight winning seasons. They had been to the NCAA tournament the year before. The 2016 team had not had a winning season in its 3 years in Division I. Anyway, as mentioned, we have panelists from 2008 and 2016. I will introduce all of them, although initially we will talk about 2008. The 2008 panel, as you can see, we've got very heavily on the coaching side of it, with assistant coach Mark Connolly, assistant coach Christian Figueroa. Christian was just a couple of years removed from playing on this Riverhawk soccer team, but at this point he's an assistant coach. Matt Dubois is with us. He is or was at that time, a senior forward, along with Stephen Potchner. He led the team with 9 goals. Ryan Richards was the goalkeeper. Turned in 6 shutouts, had a 1.07 goals against average. His name is scattered throughout the school's soccer record book. The head coach, Ted Priestley. Ted was in his 12th season leading the Riverhawk program. He'd been coach of the year a couple of times. He was a veteran with, I think a 630 winning percentage, something such as that. Now, as far as the 2016 panel, and I know some of them, I'm trying to look, I guess just about all of them are here at this point. Carlos Ruiz, he was a senior midfielder in 2016, by the way, converted all 3 of his penalty kick opportunities during the season. For some reason, that always jumped out at me and remained in the back of my mind. Eric Martin was a senior back. He was the America East Defender of the Year in 2016. Von Abramovich, Abra, as he was known, or is known, I suppose, scored 9 goals. 6 of them were game winners. He was the ECAC and America East Rookie of the Year. Julito Fernandez led the team with 11 goals and 27 points. 5 of his goals were game winners. Willie Till was also an All-American, and he was the America East Striker of the Year. The head coach, he does double duty. He gets to be on two panels. Is Christian Figueroa. He was in his 6th season as the head coach. He was the ECAC Coach of the Year. As mentioned, we'll divide the conversation into 2 parts. We'll start with 2008, and to do so, we're going to take a look here at a slideshow put together by Aaron King. Aaron does terrific work with video and photos and so on and so forth. So I will shut up for a moment, kind of, because you're going to hear my voice on this as well, but let's kind of get some of the feel for 2008. Led by 6 seniors, the 2008 Riverhawks finished their Northeast 10 conference slate at 9-3-1 to earn the program's first ever Northeast 10 regular season championship. They were 13-4-4 overall. UMass Lowell secured the regular season title with a 2-0 victory against number 5 Southern New Hampshire on October 29th. In that contest, the Riverhawks opened the scoring in the 51st minute when sophomore Stephen Potchner fed a pass to a streaking Matt Dubois, whose header went over the reach of the opposing goalkeeper. UMass Lowell doubled its lead in the 66th minute when a shot by freshman Mateus Candido was deflected to junior Rudy Cocandrel, who turned and toe-poked from inside the 6-yard box. The Southern New Hampshire penmen increased the pressure, and it nearly paid off in the 85th minute, but senior Joey Esteves cleared the ball away. Another opportunity for the visitors came in the 86th minute, but was met by a diving stop by goalkeeper Ryan Richards. The win, a 2-0 final, marked the 7th clean sheet of the season for Coach Ted Priestley's 2008 Riverhawks. Now, we talk about it, and we focused a bit there on a specific game. And maybe that is the game that stands out in everybody's memory. I don't know, but to open up the conversation, I'm just curious, as a group, individuals, is there a particular memory that to you summarizes the season? Does it come down to that game? Or were there other things that jumped to your mind first when you hear 2008?
I mean, yeah, it's a great question, Ann. I mean, I was going to say, I mean, for me, my perspective is very different. I know Mark and I had the privilege of working with Mark. So, I mean, honestly, would love to hear Ted's perspective on this, having been in charge of the program for so many years. And I think he brings a lot of light into that one.
Yeah, no, I remember just early on in the season, after a pretty productive and spirited preseason, competitive preseason as well. We went out to Dowling, who was traditionally one of the powers in the region, and we lost the game. And I remember saying to the team afterwards, we all kind of it stung. I mean, losing always does, but said we're going to be back here. We're going to be back here for the NCAA tournament, and we're going to be ready for that. So, I think we had a committed group. We had a fantastic, I mean, just wonderful program at that time. It obviously is now, but at that point, we were just together. We had people pushing towards a common goal. We were tough. We were committed, but we had a great spirit, fantastic assistant coaches, and so.
Matt, let me ask Matt, what stands out for you about that year?
Well, that's a good question. That year, it was kind of bittersweet, I think, because the last year, also transferring in, coming from a different program. There's a lot to be remembered. I remember preseason, like Ted had the belts, and from the start to the end, it was all memorable. It was a great group of guys, and some of the best memories I'll remember.
So I'll jump in and just describe the belts just for a quick second, because I don't want people to think that I was out hitting everybody with belts. We would do 1v1 and 2v2 training every day, or the first day of every preseason, just to because if you can't defend anybody, you can't beat anybody, right? So we said we're going to beat the heck out of each other every day in training. Why don't we enjoy it? So we created a 2 versus 2 tournament where it was 2-minute games. After the game, the winner would move up a grid, the losing team would move down a grid, and we had about 10 grids. The top grid had 2 WWE title belts that we would give out to the winners at the end of the whole thing. So it made things extra competitive. You can imagine, and what was great is that they got to keep the belts with them and take them back to the dorms. So you can imagine what happens in the dorms when you've got 18 to 23-year-old college males running around with title belts. So that's where that was. A little background.
Ryan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Ted summed it up pretty well. I definitely remember being at Dowling, losing that game. I think it was 1-0. And Ted said, everyone said, don't worry, we're going to be back here in November. And I mean, sure enough, we were. And I think for me that season, we kind of got off to not a rocky start, but it was, we were maybe 500. We had a bunch of injuries that people were fighting. And then I think the turning point was kind of, I remember this, the Bentley game at Bentley after coming off a loss in overtime to St. A's. And from there, we just kind of went on a run right through Southern New Hampshire.
I know looking at there was the loss to Dowling, there were some wins, losses, and a number of ties early on. I'm not sure, and I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head here. I think the team might have been 2-2-3 at one point, or 3-2-3, something like that. And Ryan, you point to a turning point. And let me ask in general, both to you and to Matt and Ted and Christian and Mark, is there a point for a team where all the pieces suddenly fit together when you're going through a season, whether it comes with a particular win or a loss, but a point where all the pieces now fit together?
For us, I mean, at some point there, you start looking at, the Northeast 10 was always a tough conference. Having played there, coached, every game can be difficult, home or away. So when you start seeing, you're getting these results that some of them are not pretty. You start getting into, and we used to call this all the time. You start getting into these rock fights, and you know that you can be better at rock fights than the guys across the field from you. And you start winning those ugly games. That's when you start sorting out, and figuring out that, you've got something going. It may not be the prettiest thing falling into place, but it's falling into place. And you're finding ways to win these ugly games. You're finding ways to score late, or you might go down a goal and you can claw yourself back from it. In that conference, when you start getting some of those results, you really start to feel it. And you build that confidence going into, every half you're really playing.
Ted, for you as a coach, you assemble a team, they're getting ready, and sometime in August in 2008, you're there, you're looking at the team that you've got. The year before, you'd been to the NCAA tournament. I don't know if that has any effect, but when you first put that team together in August and everybody's out there, what are you thinking the ceiling is?
Well, we thought we could win a national championship. Early on. So for people who know and I know all these guys do, but just the history of the program, we had been very, very bad for a very long time, right? And then we gradually improved to a point where you hope to be competitive, and then you are competitive, and then you go from hope to belief, and then from belief, you go to expectation, and we expected to be in the NCAA tournament. We were still in that position where we believed that we could and probably should make a good run for the league title. We had been very, I thought, consistent in the Northeast 10 tournament. So we just never won the league outright, and that was one of the things that we felt we could do. But we had a talented group. We were creating a lot of chances, especially early on in the season. They just weren't going in. But you worry more if you're not creating chances, or if you're just giving up bad goals. And we weren't. It was just bad. Just bad luck. I think that the guys just, to their credit, and we had great leadership from guys like Ryan, guys like Maddie, that just kept their foot on the gas and kept believing and kept pulling everybody forward and through. I was my traditional self, I guess, but Mark especially, and Christian as assistant coaches, they would do the really important work of getting, again, back to guys like Ryan, guys like Maddie, and just putting an arm around them and just say, listen, this is going to be fine, and just keeping things moving in a positive direction. So it was a group effort.
Let me ask, well, I'll ask everybody from 2008. Is there a secret sauce, a secret ingredient? I'm sure you thought the 2007 team was talented and was going to win a national championship. What made 2008 different that you win for the first time a league championship? You gave us the history. We'd been competitive for a number of years, and I suspect battling on a probably pretty regular basis, at least the preceding several years, for a league regular season or tournament championship. What made 2008 different? What was the secret sauce, so to speak?
I'll say, I think if we showed up to a game on the field and Mark, asked Matty Dubois how he was feeling, and if he said good, I think something was off. Every time Matty had a long explanation as to how he was feeling, I think we felt like we were gonna be okay that night because Matty was being Matty. A secret sauce, I mean, that's just a question to ask. I mean, you look at the group, it was, pretty veteran group from the year before. They've experienced, some highs, some lows, obviously. And bringing that to 2008, I think really helped, So I think that's some of the experience. You had some of the older guys, Jamie Wangia, you had guys, Johnny Valencia was his third-year guy who was just very calm, but, a competitor. A lot of those guys were, if you look at where they played before, the clubs, they were winners. That's one thing that their mentality really showed, that they were winners. Ryan played with a handful of guys that we brought to Lowell, and those guys knew nothing but winning. So they never accepted, a bad result for a bad result. They knew that we could do something better. Obviously, we always heard it from Ted. We heard it from Mark. The staff was great, but I just think that they all bought in, and they didn't always have to get along, in every moment on or off the field, but those guys wanted to win together. And when you have that, I just think that you're capable of beating the most talented team across the field from you. And that 08 group had it.
I think it's a really good point. And we also didn't have, one person that we relied on to carry the whole load in terms of scoring. Like we didn't need Matty to score 30 goals. We had 3 guys that scored 9. We had, answers. If somebody was having a down game, somebody else would pick up the slack on their own right. It was really great that way. A lot of depth, a lot of quality depth. I saw that G sent in a text with the competition and practice. Training was intense and fun, and you practice like you played every single day. And that's exactly right. Our guys fought every single day in training to win the position on game day. And if somebody else won the position, you were expected to cheer for that player, but you're also expected to be back at training the next day, ready to fight him for that position again. That was our program. We were tough, we were committed, we were competitive, we were fair, but we were together.
I think Jamie Wangia grew a foot over that summer, and he had 7 goals with his head. 2008 season, I believe.
Yep.
Came in like a truck.
He did.
I think the big thing, I'll jump in here.
No one was happier than Johnny Valencia when he knew he just had to put a ball in an area, or Matias Pietropinto just said, put it here, Jamie's got it.
It really starts in 06 because when I'm joining, it's Christian's last year, Ted made an amazing discovery with this whole group that had come in as freshmen. Ryan Richards, Mike Clem, Corey Samuelson, Potts was a redshirt, guys like Terrence. We had a great group. I'm missing Rudy. So that whole group is now juniors. You have a returning All-American in Matias. And then think about the 3 transfers that were starters. Matty Dubois, obviously, he comes in with Joey Esteves, who was an unbelievable right back for us. And then even Timmy Bankston, who comes in as a transfer, I believe, in 06. And then the emergence of the freshmen. We knew, I think, Matias Candido would jump into the lineup and be good for us. We saw him as a club player. He'd been in a regional final, but it was his teammate on that team, Astley coming in and stepping in next to Rudy, I think surprised us, at least surprised me. I thought he was someone that down the line would pay dividends, but he played dividends right away. And then Alex Sandoni, I don't think we expected a ton of him from the get-go. He was down the list as far as a recruit. He was a nice player, but he ended up being a very important player, especially down the stretch off the bench. And then we had the fastest guy maybe in the country, and Jeff Danso was our first sub. which was unbelievable to have Jeff. On every other team in the country, he would have been a starter and probably scored a ton of goals.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Curious, Ryan and Matt, when you made the decision, and I know, Matt, you were transfer, what led to the decision to come to UMass Lowell? Ryan, when you were being recruited, why'd you say yes?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think, when you kind of go on these recruit trips to get an idea of what the team is like, what the culture is like, what the school is like, I think you have to make your decision based on that, and sort of the culture that Ted had built at Lowell. That's a huge drawing point, right? If your idea is you want to play soccer, get a good education, that's kind of that's what you're looking for. And, again, what Ted had built there was, is something that I wanted to buy into, wanted to be a part of. And, that made a pretty big influence on my decision.
Matt?
I didn't know I thought after I left Merrimack, I wasn't going to play again. To be honest, I just thought I'd hang them up. But I think it was a little bit of a grudge that I had against leaving another team that happened to be in the ND10. So I really wanted to compete against them. It's close to home, family. In high school, I went down to Florida to play in high school. So a lot of my family didn't get to see those games. So I think it meant something to them. And as far as the school goes, it did a lot for me. The school did a lot for me, more than I thought it would. So every aspect, from the sports, the academics, to just being close to home, it meant a lot to me and my family.
Was there a point for you guys, Ryan and Matt, during the year where suddenly you realized this season can be special? Or is it just, what's the next game on the schedule, and you don't think about the bigger picture of how the season's going?
Before we started that season, I expected to go to the national championship. That was in my mind the whole time.
But is there some point that in the middle of the season when you go, hey, we're doing something that hasn't been done here before?
Yeah, I think.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ted.
Say the math kept kind of happening, for us. We'd have a few blips here and there, but we were never too far away from the top of the league. And then a couple of teams that were ahead of us dropped points unexpectedly. So it came down really to, we just kept doing our business and cranking out results and getting 3 points along the way, while others kind of around us were dropping. And we put ourselves in a position for that final day that if we won and somebody else dropped points, there we were.
I'll ask this question of the 2008 team here, but I'll also ask it of the 2016 panel. So when we get to you guys, have this in the back of your mind. And I'm curious, is there a difference between being good enough to win and knowing how to win? And if so, what's the difference?
Great question, Bob. I'd love to hear actually from Ryan or Maddie on that, because
I'd love to hear from them too.
Yeah, I would love to see what their mindset was, because they heard a lot from us at trainings, day in and day out. So their expectations, they know they were high, but love to hear what you have to say on that.
Yeah, I think for us, we obviously come into the season with really high expectations. We had lost maybe one or two guys. Returning just a ton of senior and junior leadership, and had a great recruiting class coming in. And, I think early on in the season, maybe our expectations were way above what we thought, because we had a rocky start. But I mean, when, like you said, I think we were 3-2-3 or something in that realm. But at practice, it was, keeping us grounded, right? You have to get the results. You have to find a way to win these games. Like Christian was saying, the Northeast 10 it's tough. Every game is going to be tough. Even if the team is 0-8, it's going to be an absolute battle. So you have to find some way to win, whether you had good scouting or, specific training to get ready for that game. I remember, I think we did one practice of just sending long balls over the top in between the defense and the goalkeepers just to work on that for maybe 45 minutes one practice. And it's training like that, I don't think other teams were doing, but it got us prepared for that specific game, right? To be able to find some way to win.
That was actually one of the things that comes to mind for me is that we were, if you remember, we played on grass. We didn't play on the turf that there is today. And our style of play suited where we played, and there's a lot of pressure, in terms of pressure on the ball. There was a lot of emphasis on getting the ball into wide spaces, getting service in the box, making their team, the opposition, make mistakes and being opportunistic. We had, if you look, I actually looked at our starting lineup. Our starting lineup in goal, we had a goalkeeper from Holden, and then we went Fall River, Northborough, Revere, Andover, Lowell, Thika, Kenya. So that's one exotic, international player in Jamie, but he was based in Lowell. But Leominster, Drake, Wilmington, Lowell. That was us, and we were as sophisticated as we could be. We still had a lot of quality, but that's where we were, and we were beating teams, competing with and beating teams that had players that were all full scholarship kids, because our kids were not. We had 0 full scholarship kids, 0, and we were beating teams that were fully funded and had all full scholarship kids, and most of them were were international players that were much more sophisticated than we were. One of the things that came through, not just in the training, but just in our culture, was just that toughness and the commitment to win and to be there for each other. And I think that just these guys were just tougher than the opposition throughout the season.
I think, Matt, I saw that you wanted to jump in on this.
I was just going to piggyback off what Ryan and Ted said, but I think everybody showing up every day, being on the same page, I think that was really great. And also being able to count on everybody. Everybody stepped up where they need to, and not just 1 or 2 individual players, but as a team, everybody stepped up, and you can really count on, all the starting 11 to make sure they're going to come through. So it was a good team. It's a good year.
I will note as well, and a couple of you have referenced it, that there was a good freshman recruiting class, but you had a number of seniors and this and that. So maybe this is first a question to the coaches, Ted, Mark, and Christian. When you've got that, I will say, diversity of age and experience, you've got a number of freshmen coming, you got a number of seniors. Is it challenging for a coaching staff to find a way to bring a team together quickly?
To a certain extent, but what was great is that we always led with character, not just ability. We had good players, but they all high character guys, team first people. We would tell them that this is not a program for everybody. We probably do and stand for some things that other programs don't, and maybe that could be a better fit for other players. But the guys that we were fortunate enough to bring to campus and to our program were just such high quality people, great families, and that made a big difference.
Yeah, I'll add too that a huge part of that in the 2016 guys will, find interest in this, was Christian being a second year young assistant. We really could rely on him too, especially with somebody like Matias Petropinto. They were close friends, and with Ryan and the rest of the junior class, who Christian was their captain when they were freshmen. And Christian was about as fine a captain as you'd ever have. He's about the best player I ever coached. And to have him there, where Christian was separate from me and Ted. Me and Ted were former teammates. We spoke a lot of the same language. Christian was still a young guy, and we could kind of rely on him. First off, we could throw him in training because he was still going to be about the best player out there. But he has such a nice way with players. He still does, and that's only gotten better. And I think he was a huge help to Ted and I to kind of be someone that when he would talk to the guys, they knew he wasn't a narc and coming running back to us with the guys' problems. he would put it through his filter, tell us what we needed to know. And I'm sure he kept a lot from us too. And I always thought that was a really big thing for us. And I'll mention one other person who's not with us right now is Chris Foy, our trainer. Most teams have a trainer that kind of stands to the side and isn't involved. Chris was a huge part of that. I know he was close with a lot of you guys, but he was close with the coaching staff and one of the few people we really trusted. And getting through a college season, people that have never been a part of it, or especially as coaches, there's so many injuries and it's so hard day to day with treatment. And as Chris would say, keeping the small things small. And I felt like that was a huge part of our season is those two guys.
It's a great point. And I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention the fact that, all the coaches, but Mark especially, saved me, but saved us from a lot of bad substitutions that I was about to make throughout the course of many a game. When I'd say, like, I'd look, and Matty, I love this. I'd say, hey, maybe we should play Matty Dubois wide in the midfield. That was my idea. And Mark would just go, he'd just shake it off like he was pitching, and he didn't want to throw a fastball. But he'd just shake it off. And I never questioned Mark, and I never questioned Chris Foy. You're right. Back to our athletic trainer. Having coached in other places, there are times that you're just like, geez, can I trust what they say? Is that what it really is? Chris Foy, it was great. I never questioned a single thing that he ever said. And that is just the highest praise I think we could possibly give to him, is that he was that good. We never questioned him. They questioned me, but
at this point, I want to begin to work the conversation toward 2016. But before we do, I know, Christian, you wanted to acknowledge other alums from 2008 who are part of this webinar as well.
Yeah, we had, the privilege of having, a handful of guys that were taking time away from their Friday night again to join us. I know that Boss is going to help us with a few of those guys, been chatting with them. So I think they should be joining us. I see Asley is popping in shortly. But it'd be great to, be able to give them a shout out too, because as we've all been saying, this was just a strong group, a great group of guys that, I myself had the privilege of playing with for a year when they were freshmen. But it was a great group. So, I see more names, G, Corey, Dan. So if you guys are able to switch that camera on your end, I would love to see everybody.
Hutz is there too.
Hutz is there. There's G. Yeah, with a little one right there, G. Attaboy, Corey. Yeah.
Liverpool fan there.
Danso. We're talking about Danso flicking balls onto himself and winning those races. I've never seen anybody do that in college soccer. He's the only guy that's done it multiple times.
It's true.
So Danso was saying, though, he doesn't have the speed he once did.
I would doubt that. It's Jamie. Yeah, it's great. I know Timmy was joining us. So, it's great to see the faces, honestly. Potsy's there with the little one as well. Love that, Timmy. Yeah. You got to get Timmy out to the course. It's either that or he's out at the golf course a lot, I'm hearing.
Yeah. No more soccer, just golf.
Well, it's we definitely appreciate you guys being able to come out tonight, but we're hoping everybody's enjoying it. It's great to talk about these memories from, we're talking over 10 years ago at this point. And honestly, these times, I have the opportunity to see Ted and Mark a lot and talk to them, but you'd be surprised of how often a lot of you guys come up collectively, individually, the team, the fun times, Ryan and Maddie, the not so much fun times, as but those are the things that honestly made us all grow as a staff, as coaches, as people. And honestly, a lot of you guys, as we get to see, and it's great to see that, you remain close, which I think is one of the most important things for us after the soccer's over, and I think that just means a lot more. And, it's great, as we were saying with Potsy and G, you see the kids, and we got them everywhere. Corey, you must not be sleeping either, which is great.
Looking great. I think one of the things that's most rewarding for all of us is that these guys here that played in the 08s and even a lot of the guys that are some of the older classes, they come back and support the current team today. And certainly the guys from 14 as well do as well. That level of connectivity, it just means so much, to see it in the stands, but also when you're on the field playing and you look up in the stands and you see all these faces in their UMass Lowell gear. It means a lot.
All right, I'm going to turn the attention now to 2016 again. Our 2016 panel includes Carlos Ruiz, Eric Martin, Ivan Abramovich, and Wilito Fernandez. And so I'm going to start off just, you guys, in 2016, the team, and Abra is brand new to it at that point. He's a freshman, but they'd not had a winning season in Division I. I'm curious, when you get together in August, what are you guys thinking? What are your expectations for the year ahead?
Well,
And I guess they were
for me,
speechless.
yeah, for me, actually, that was my sophomore year academically and freshman year as playing soccer. But my whole year, the semester before the spring 2015, I have witnesses. So I've said that we're winning the whole thing next year. That I'm 100% sure we're winning the thing. And sure enough, what happened in 2016.
I want to know, Abra, I want to know then, why did you believe? Why were you convinced of that?
Well, when I came, it's a completely different feeling than everywhere else I've played in my life so far. I've been to many teams growing up and playing, and it's always competition. Always, it doesn't feel like a team. It's always like you're on your own and trying to be as best as you can, so you can get professional contract somewhere, and that's it. But when I got to the team, it was completely different. I remember my first day when I got there, Julito didn't know me, and we're walking through the campus and he's talking to me, whatever you need, I'm here for you. Something I've never experienced. So it all from there, from that feeling of how you believe in your teammates and how you feel about your teammates, about the coaches that are supporting you and believing in you, and then you just know something special. And we had it in the practices, but we just needed an extra click, and it happened 2016.
Eric Martin, what were you thinking in August?
Definitely a little differently than he was, being there for the last 3 years, and in a bad way, but we had come off 3 wins, then seasons when we're 500 about. So I knew we had Abra there. Obviously, he was already playing. Blaskic, I think, was already there. The team was just going to be so different, and you never know, I guess, with 2 weeks of a preseason, how much that'll kind of translate into the season. It did change really quickly after a couple of games to realize how good we were going to be, but I think even going season, if you had asked me how we would do, it would kind of be up in the air. I mean, I think we'd be a little bit better, but for me personally, I had no clue it would end up being how it was. So that was just how I saw it.
Carlos, what were you thinking?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we hear Abra's perspective, which was very hopeful, and he just got the family welcome. But 2 years before, I think we finished 3rd place. So there was a feeling that we could compete, that we had enough material, especially from what the seasons before had brought. And even before we were Division I, you guys had put a great foundation. And then we had Abra the entire season where I believe he couldn't play. And so we were able to start to recognize that we're building something special. And then I believe Blaggy came in the spring. And so we felt that there had been a gap in which, I think it was the 15 season. We had high expectations and we didn't live up to them, but we didn't forget about the season before and what the program meant to everybody. And then to these new Europeans that were coming in to enhance our potential. So I feel that it was a click, and obviously you couldn't tell if it was going to be that special of a season, but you knew that there was something in there that had been building up. And then with the new product or additions, it was just bound to be something special.
Lito, what do you think? What did you think in August?
Well, I would like to pick up from like Carlos, like a lot of what I taught back in August had a lot to do with what Carlos just said and what Abra just said as well. And like that year, just like Carlos said, back in 2014, where we finished third, where like we actually had a chance to, for example, like win that last game, and hopefully, for example, like UMBC lost their game, we could have literally tied for the regular season. So right there, I knew I was like, because you get the idea where like you get to Division I level, it's like you're just transitioning from D2 to D1. You always hear people saying like it's gonna be tough. It's always like this and stuff like that. And then you go from like playing your first game in D1, and then like you lose that game. And then when the end of the season comes, you're 3-14-1. And right there, you know, like it's gonna be hard. But then in just like 2 years, we were already competing. Like a year later, we tripled the amount of wins that we had the year before. And then we could tell that we can actually compete against those teams. And then finishing third that year made me believe that we can actually come close to winning the whole thing. And then again, mentioning what Carlos mentioned about like seeing a guy like Abra, like his first year when he got there, he couldn't play, and then he was just training. I just saw how special he was. I saw how special he was. I saw what he could bring to the team and stuff like that. I was like, this is actually like the guy that we need on the team. This is the guy that we need on the team, whether it's like to score, assist, but just like his mentality, the way he plays, like his professionalism and stuff like that. I was very hopeful going into the following season, because I remember being at school, not being able to play my first year and stuff like that. And I made sure like I kept talking to him. I was like, I've been there. I was in the same shoes as you. I was there ready to play, so hungry, excited to play, and then I couldn't play for a whole year. And all I wanted to do was literally like for next year to come, so I can actually do everything that I wish I had done the year before. So yeah, we had a special group, and since day one, I believe that we could won the whole thing that year.
You end up winning the whole thing, or winning at least all that you could win, and that you could only play a regular season. I'm going to take a look here at some video highlights. I probably should have shown this or asked that it be shown a little bit earlier, but again, put together by Aaron King, a look at 2016.
Crowd can feel it, minute and a half to go. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2016 America East regular season champions, the UMass Lowell Riverhawks.
All right, now, Coach, we saw you got a little bit of, what do they call it, a Gatorade bath, looked like water, but whatever. You got a little bit of bath at the end. When you're putting together the team, when you're gathering them on a field in August, are you envisioning that at some point someone's going to be dumping the water bucket on you?
I should know better. Because every year I try to remind myself on my birthday, these guys don't forget to drop water on me. I should have seen it coming, and I just failed to do it like I do every year on my birthday. So, no, I mean, I think it's one of the small pleasures these guys get every chance they have. And, you know, just like every team, anytime you can enjoy a little thing like that, you know, they're having fun. You know, they have those light moments throughout the training sessions or games. So, you know, they talked about it. I thought it was just, as I said, it was just a great moment at the time.
Did you think back in August that, boy, you've got the sort of team that can lead to that sort of celebration? Or in August, you know, you had a number of freshmen on that team as well that played key roles. When you're there in August, are you still kind of wondering how the pieces are going to fit together and what it's going to look like? Or were you pretty confident that, hey, we're going to have, shock America East?
We were. I don't know if anyone remembers, but at the Excellence Banquet at the end of that year, there's always a blooper reel. And there was a question asked to me by Sabu and Tommy of, the poll just came out, you're picked to be last in the poll. Like, what do you think? And I told them in, not so kind words that they edited, but, I told them we were going to win that year. I believed it. We had a great group of returners. Our leadership was very strong. We had 3 outstanding captains. I have to mention, he couldn't join us tonight, but Joe Conti, was an outstanding captain for us as well, and was able to help us keep things together. But we believed it. We believed we could win that year. We knew we had a talented group, a lot of new faces, but that's part of the fun. A lot of times when you have a lot of new faces, you get to start over a little bit and build it, mold it the way you want to. And we were able to do a lot of that. And yeah, you know what? We surprised teams. That was their fault. That was not ours. We seized the opportunity every single day we were out there. And I think by, late September, I think people started taking notice. And honestly, by then it was too late for them because our guys were in a great role and they were confident. And it was really tough to really get ahead on that group.
Oh, and that year went down. I think the opener was at Northeastern, and I was asked to go down and take pictures, and I did so, and it ended up being a 2-1 win. And I don't remember whether Lowell or Northeastern had scored first, but the thing that struck me that particular afternoon, very early in the season, obviously the first game, was the character of this team. What strikes me as I heard each of the gentlemen talk a moment ago was the bond between them that I've got to think translates into performance on the field. When I hear Abra talk about Walito, or hear Walito talking about players and Carlos and Eric and so on, as they talk about each other, it strikes me that the bond with this team was terrific. And I don't know if that's something that a coach builds or whether it's your captains build or how that develops, but it really feels like there was an amazing bond with this team.
There was. I think it was a lot of fun. And Abra said it before. He was joining us that first year in 2015. And I know I'll let these guys talk about it a little bit more, but Abra said it best when he arrived. It was very welcoming. And this is part of the privilege I have working with these guys now, and the foundation that was set many years ago when Ted was here. I still feel it now as a coach, and I get that same feeling when I was a player that I received from Ted and Bracky Reyes, who was an assistant coach at the time, Brandon Kern, Jonathan's older brother. These guys taught us of how you want to treat these, your players, your teammates. And it was no different whether you were coming from Andover, Drake at Lowell, or you were coming from Zagreb, Croatia, where Abra was coming from. And Abra said it best earlier, Walito and these guys were saying, hey, anything you need, you let us know, anything at all that you need assistance with, because it doesn't matter where you're coming from. When you're away from home and things are not going your way, especially when you're playing a sport, you're losing, the experience can just be that much worse. And when you're winning, it's that much better. So to have guys in your corner, regardless of how things are going, I think really helps you get through those times. And that's the feeling that when you get to games or, even training sessions, I think it really helps push through those tough moments. So it's obviously a privilege that I have right now with these guys, and I'm thankful for. But it's been, a long time coming. As I said, the foundation was there many years ago, and these guys have been able to carry it through.
And if you want to jump in on that?
I'll jump in and just say that I don't forget there was a moment in the 2014 season we were at UMBC, and I remember after the game, Christian, the end of the game speech was more directed towards one of our players, Homero, and it was him telling him that he was so grateful for everything that he had done, that as much as we couldn't, I think we lost off a PK or something, but just thanking him because I think that was the last away trip, and I think that struck some of the guys that were there that ended up being in that 2016, that honor the people that got us there. And I think without honoring all of the previous teams and being able to live and be in the locker room with someone as talented as Homero, who had easily been a starter in that 2016 season, it was always in the back of our minds. And I think as captains, because we were all part of that, we had the responsibility to carry that, the feeling of that speech, and somehow incorporate it into this new group of guys and let them know that it's not just your talent, and our talent is what we bring from the past years, and even before we were there. So I think that stayed with me since in that UMBC game, and I think it was part of something that could have led. So to your question, I guess it's something that it starts with the leaders, coaches, captains, and I wasn't a captain then, but it just resonated with me, and then taking that to the next season and the next season.
Yeah, I would have to with Carlos. For me, it was from all of the above, like people who are taking care of us, starting with the coaches and then the captains. They were nurturing an environment where everybody who came onto the team just felt like, okay, I fit in, and he had a place there, and he was happy with that place, and being so happy with where he was and welcomed by the entire team, he could show his potential, and that's what happened. So everybody who came onto the field and was on the team was content there and happy and was able to perform to its best because of that, because they were accepted, and that's something it's rarely accomplished in a.
I asked the 2008 group this and said I'd ask the 2016 group as well. Is there a difference between being good enough to win and learning how or knowing how to win? Is there a difference?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. I think all 4 years that I was there, and Melito and Carlos and Christian, obviously, I think we had enough talent to win every single year. Even going back to the year we won 3 games, Carlos had got hurt. Melito missed some games. Like, we had enough talent that year. If you look around the team, and some guys might even be here tonight, like, we had good players and we won 3 games. So, like, I did after that year kind of look around and think, like, we're good enough to win, but there's a huge difference between being good enough and then understanding, okay, the difference between us winning now is if we make a mistake, the ball's in our net. And I think each year we kept getting better and better. We learned how to win games. Even the next 2 years, maybe we didn't have as much talent as the last year, but we won games because we played the right way and we learned how to close out games. And then I think just that, like, the structure we had going into that year meshed with the talent that came in, and everything worked at the same time. In terms of, we had the talent there now, and talent just brought us over the top because we had that structure. Christian and the coaching staff never had us get away from the way we wanted to play. We weren't going to win games because we packed it in and just kicked the ball around. So we had that structure, and then once we had the right players in the right places, it just all worked out. So that's kind of how I would answer that.
I will note a question from Carter Hockman for you, Coach. Says, for Christian, at what moment, be it preseason or regular season, did you know that 2016 would be special?
Well, that's a good question. As I said, in preseason, we had expectations. We had a strong group. We had strong leadership. So we knew that we were going to be accomplishing something. We weren't quite sure where, but I would probably say, you look at how we got out of that second weekend of the season when we played home against Seton Hall and St. Francis. 2 tough opponents. Seton Hall had been, we had played them, I don't know, the year before or 2 years prior at their place. We had lost. St. Francis, still now, but definitely in that span of 3 or 4 years, they were hard to score against. They were, a menace to just compete against. I think they beat us the year before 3-0 at their place. So, getting out of that weekend with 6 points, moving up to 4-0 in the season, that was probably realistically a turning point for me. I knew we were talented, but you talk about, we said earlier in the night, winning those rock fights. Those were 2 overtime games, against quality opponents. And you're at home. There's a lot of pressure on you. You get into overtime. Losing at home or tying in overtime sometimes feels like a loss when you're there. And we felt we were the better team. So finishing both of those games, I know Abra, getting the game winner on that the second day, with Lito getting that game winner against Seton Hall that Friday night, was outstanding. And anytime you're playing 2 games in 3 days, it's just so taxing on the body. And these guys can tell you. So coming out of 6 points on that weekend for us, managing the bodies, taking care of ourselves, I think it was so important for us. and I have to, make sure I bring this up because I know you said 3 for 3. Carlos, I count your preseason penalty at Harvard as 4. So that was 4 for 4 that year on penalties. But, Negro got himself taken down in the box against St. Francis to get that goal. And then obviously Abra, wanted to announce to the whole conference that he was here, with that overtime goal. So, but obviously that whole play was just a great team effort from Yakov to Fede, and just obviously the resilience of the team. Again, that would be my answer. Is definitely after that second weekend in those Seton Hall and St. Francis games.
And I'll put it out to the group. I mean, was there a point at which you knew you were special or you were having a special season? I know you believed in yourselves. I understand that. It's not a question about belief. It's a question, I guess, about was there a point in the year that you said, whoa, this can be a very special season?
Sorry, Carlos. For sure, for me, as I kind of said, like, I didn't know what to expect, but I go back one weekend before Christian and say, well, back against Northeastern, I think we as a team and as coaching staff expected to beat them, but I think you play that game, you travel down to Monmouth in a day, a team that was like, I mean, they were always around nationally ranked. We're playing them on the road and it's like 100 whatever degrees out. And we kind of just went down and killed them. And I remember coming home on the trip home and just thinking to myself, like, from then on, I really knew we were like very good. And that was like, it only took those we lost and tied in preseason, but like, if you were on the field, you knew we were way better than both the teams we played. Obviously preseason a little different, but those 2 games, beating Northeastern, coming back, and then kind of dominating a team that I think at that point, if I remember, they had like a real long winning streak at home over there. So to go do that on the road as early as like the second weekend, I think, at least for me, that's when I knew like, okay, we could definitely be very good.
As you meant, go ahead.
So just real quick, I actually knew that these guys were going to be really good when a couple of years prior, when the decision was made to elevate to Division I, and Christian was there in the big meeting when they were all told, we can't compete for championships for this period. And I just kind of looked at him, and we kind of caught eyes, and after the meeting, I went over to him. I said, so what do you think? He says, can't compete for tournament championships, but we can compete for the league championship. And I just loved what he said, and I knew he was going to say it, and it just shows what his mentality is. He's a winner, and I think that translates through. These guys were all winners, and that whole 2016 team, that's a special group. And you look at it today, and they're still winners. So I think that doesn't happen by accident. None of us in the stands that were watching and cheering on were surprised. We were all impressed because these guys, I don't know if you ever gave the ball away. It's like, you thank God there was a kickoff for the other team because they could at least touch the ball a little bit. But you guys just never lost the ball. And it was just beautiful to watch. It still is. And that all started with, I think, Christian's belief that, fine, we'll win whatever we need to win, however we need to win it.
I guess picking up on one of the points you make in referring to Christian's speech at the time, no, you couldn't compete for an NCAA championship that year. You couldn't compete for an America East postseason tournament championship. But did that kind of emphasis mean that you as a team were on a mission for that regular season? This was about kind of stepping up and beating your chest and saying, this is who we are, take notice?
Yeah, for lack of better words, absolutely. We wanted to win that first year, and obviously we had a rough road ahead, and we learned from those bumps and bruises, but it absolutely was. These guys can tell you, once we got into October and we were on that roll and we're playing conference games, even at that Boston College game, and we had a tough, 5-day stretch because we had to play New Hampshire twice in 3 days with the weather, and Boston College a few days later, So these guys had it the entire time, and their mentality was, we are going to beat you. We are going to be better than you. We are going to impose our will at times on you. And we not only had the talent to do it, but the mentality to do it for 90 minutes. And there were times, Bob, I'll be honest, the games didn't go our way. It did get ugly. And the guys, as a staff, we were making adjustments. Bob Thompson and Frankie D'Agostino, Abel Waswell, who, with me on the staff at the time and they were all fantastic and still are. But we challenged these guys a lot during the season, and especially late in the season. And they responded because they knew what they could accomplish, and they did want to show everybody, hey, we're here. You're going to know who UMass Lowell is, and you're going to talk about it after the college season's over.
You mentioned the BC game, Boston College. I remember, and that came very late in the year. I think at halftime you were down 2-0. I think with 20 minutes to go in the second half, you were down 2-0. And you end up coming away with a 3-2 victory, which I guess speaks to character. But as you point out, it was during a very tough time on the schedule.
Yeah, and that was a challenge, right? We always try to rest the legs when we can. We were given, thrown a curveball with the schedule, and at one point we were actually deciding, like, do we play this Boston College game? I never would have canceled it, but it's really, I'd be lying if I didn't say it crossed my mind, because we're in the middle of a championship run. Our legs are, we got to take care of our bodies. So, we have to come up with, what do we need to do? I thought we managed it pretty well. But I will say, and I've had this conversation with people before, but 20 minutes left, we're down 2-0. This is no exaggeration. We believe we were going to win that game. There was no part of us that did not believe we were not going to win that game. I've had this conversation with Abra. We've talked about this before. These guys were out on the field, and they knew that time was, winding down, but the way we were still playing was not changing. We didn't get flustered. We weren't throwing the ball away. Boston College was still defending, at times for their lives. And you give it a minute where it clicks for that first goal, and that was it. I think after that first goal, it was over. We knew we were going to win that game 100%. And, and that was a credit to these guys for, winning those tough games early on in the season and really showing their colors to say, we got 2 games after this. This is our championship. And it started at, way earlier, but I thought it was really cemented at that Boston College game.
All right. I'm going to ask Carlos, pay attention to this question because you're going to get it next. But I'll ask Christian, you played for and coached with Ted Priestley. How much Ted Priestley is there in you as a coach? Carlos, get ready because you played with and coached with Christian. And I'm going to ask you how much of Christian Figueroa you see in yourself as a coach. And I think, Walito, you're doing some coaching too, so you might want to think about this. But Christian, I'll start by letting you answer.
There's a lot. Honestly, I see a lot of things. And, every time you look at anything, you want to learn from, you look at the good, you look at the bad, you want to take the good and tweak it. You see the bad, you might say, all right, I'll stay away from that. It doesn't always work that way. As Ted had said earlier, with Mark Connolly there, I've been fortunate. I think when you surround yourself with good people, with good coaches, good players, you're bound to have some success. Ted has always given me the opportunity when I was an assistant coach at 21 years old, 21 years old as an assistant coach, would tell me, he goes, I'm not here to, you're not here to put down cones and just say yes to everything I say. I don't need that from you. Otherwise, I'll get anyone else. You're here to help with decisions, with tactics, with this. And one thing I always learned was not just that, but there are times where, and I see myself getting this way a lot, but I really try not to make emotional decisions. And I know I can go from 0 to 60 pretty quickly at times. And it's the people around you that can, I see Rolito. It's the people around you that can slow you down a little bit. And if you don't have those people around you, I think, and maybe I'm not coaching at Lowell, maybe I'm not coaching at all, but I learned that it is very important to put the right people around you, as whether it's your players, whether it's your coaches. But I always took that from Ted, amongst many things, to be honest. But I always thought that was really important to me, because it doesn't matter how many X's and O's you want to share with people. It doesn't matter, some of the tactics you want to talk about, techniques, if you can't get it right off the field, on the field, you won't have the respect. You won't have from your players, from your coaches. And it's just never going to come together, as you said earlier, Bob. And that's one thing for me, amongst others, because I could talk, for a while on those things. But I always thought it was important to have people around you that you trusted, that were loyal. Most importantly is loyalty. And I've been lucky to have that. But people that were not just going to agree with everything I would say. And Ted gave me that opportunity to say no when it was right. And if I said no and we disagreed, and, I always learn from that as well. But I always would say, I would never disagree with him out on the field, because I would, just not what you do. And he would always let us have conversations quietly on the corner or behind closed doors. And I learned so much from those moments. And that's what I try to do with our players and our coaches now.
And Carlos, how much of Christian do you see in your coaching as you begin going in that direction, potentially for a nice long career?
So actually, a lot of the stuff that Christian already said, that he got from Ted, which I thought was from Christian, but I guess it's good to know, because I actually got to experience Ted when I was in youth soccer, and he coached several sessions. He came in to coach the club that I was in, and I got the intensity. And I'd say I can also say that there's some intensity from Ted that I've incorporated. But from Christian, I think his ability to manage people as opposed to manage footballers. And when he says that he doesn't take people in, for example, when I came in right out from being a player, and I wasn't just there, like he said with Ted, that I wasn't just there to pick up and put away the cones. He would actually ask, what are your thoughts on this? And let's navigate your ideas. And I think that is what allowed me to start growing. And then that allows me to, when I'm coaching younger players, it's not that I'm here to give you the right and wrongs about soccer. Let's work together. If you're the youngest in the team, if you're the senior in the team, if you're the assistant coach, volunteer, you are here to add value. And I think that translates onto the field, because in sports, everything is, we're so impulsive in making decisions. And now when our team is not playing well, which is normal, it allows us not to blame the players. Like, why are you doing things wrong if we practice all week? That allows us to, hey, we're together. They did things wrong. Maybe we could have got it wrong, and be very empathetic as a team and as a group. And I think the empathetic side of things is what I think I've taken from Christian, and I guess from Ted, the intensity that he brings in.
I don't know where all this intensity talk is coming from. I'm a very laid back man. I am.
Not when you put your cleats on.
even keel. Might be some truth there, Bob.
Yeah. Well, Lito, I've been told that you're doing some coaching. I don't know how seriously you're getting into coaching, but do you see a bit of Christian in you? And now I've lost the picture of Lito, so I don't know if he's with us or not.
I'll never leave you, Bob.
Oh, thank goodness. Do you see, are you beginning some coaching, and do you see a bit of Christian in your coaching?
Actually, that's my dream. I want to see myself becoming a coach, but that's not something I'm heavily investing on at the moment. I'm not as serious as college, I don't have that Colombian blood yet. But anyway, so as far as like what I see in me in relationship to the coaching like style from Coach Christian, it has a lot to do with what Carlos just mentioned. Like I'll make a little more personal and just kind of like mention like a little bit of like for example, like what Christian actually meant and did for me and stuff like that. For example, like he's constantly asking about things that has to do with me as a person rather than like me as a player and stuff like that. So like he's constantly showing that he cares about how I feel and what's going on in my life, how, for example, my mom, my grandma, like everybody in my family and stuff like that. So like he's the kind of coach that made me feel like no matter what's going on in my life, I'm going to make sure I put whatever it is, doesn't matter what's going on in my life, I'm going to make sure I put whatever it is that's going on to the side and actually play for him. And that's literally like what I try to do to every single player that I'm ever coaching. So like, I want to make sure I make them feel like I'm the coach they want to play for. And no matter what's going on, I'm actually going to do whatever it takes to play for that coach. So I, like so many times, like I got hurt. I thought about not playing. I never said it to anybody, but I thought about not playing. But just because of that relationship that I felt like we built among the two of us made me feel like, you know what? This is just a regular injury. This is nothing. This is something that I can play through this pain and actually go through with it. and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I try to do every single time I coach, try to build that relationship that's going to be more like a personal relationship rather than like a coach to a player, player to a coach relationship. So, yep.
I know we've probably dragged this on for much longer than had originally been planned, but I'm not ready to end it yet. But I do want, just because I'd like to ask this question to all our panelists from both 2008 and 2016. I know there's an 8-year period that separates one from the other, but I get very much the feeling that maybe without 2008, you don't get 2016. Those teams in the 2000 years leads to the opportunity to go to Division One. And I'm just curious if 2016 understands the role that 2008 played. And I wonder if 2008 understands that because of them, 2016, as well as the current day, becomes possible. So I'm just wondering, to all of those who served on the panels, do you see a connection between 2008 and 2016? The players, the coaches, do you see connections?
Bob, from my perspective, just having the opportunity to be on both of those, I definitely do. You know, again, I was fortunate to come as a player some time ago now. There was a foundation built before then that Ted, Mark, when he joined on staff, you know, they never let us sleep or get comfortable on what we did the day before, you know, what we accomplished the weekend before. You know, Ted used to always say, if what you did yesterday still seems big to you, then you haven't done anything today. And that is just always the challenge we were given, you know, every day in. And I know Jamie made a comment earlier, you know, the guys in the chat, it's like every day of training was a battle. And we try to bring that in with what we do now in 2020. And that included, these guys can tell you, in 2016 and in 15 and 14, you know, and having that, you know, mentality in 2016, haven't seen it. I will tell you, it 100% comes from 2008 and even earlier. But 2008, you know, we're able to put it together and have success, get to the tournament, win a regular season championship. But I do think there's connections, and that 2016 may not know it, and they do now. If they're here, they are here and they're listening. It is coming from a foundation that was built, you know, years before. And I'll tell you that, you know, we expect and we are seeing more success in the future, and that will come from 2008. It'll come from 2016, so on and so forth. That's, you know, the legacy these guys have been leaving.
We could probably add just something more globally in terms of the entire department. We would not be a Division I program today if it wasn't for track and field and cross country, ice hockey, field hockey, men's and women's basketball, baseball, softball. You know, all the success at the Division II level that UMass Lowell had positioned us for that conversation. If field hockey hadn't won 2 national championships, if track and field and cross country hadn't had all those Americans, all Americans, if we didn't you know, do what we did, you know, it's a less compelling conversation in terms of the sales pitch, right? But it looked like something, or I think we could all point to that and just say, you know what, that positioned us, you know, for the conversation to elevate to Division I.
Other thoughts? Do the players see the connection?
So I think similar to what I said earlier, that every class had its own responsibility to bring or honor the class before. And so perhaps we didn't play with the 08s, but there was the essence there. And even the 08s, they had the responsibility to keep the 07 and 06. So it's not just those two, but even the ones before that. And like Ted was saying, like, it's more of the institution. And I think when you asked the question, when did we feel that it hit? I think if you look back at that goal that Abra scored, I think the women's soccer team was staying on the sideline and the crowd was packed. And when you look at it, you see the style of the celebration, and it was like UMass Lowell had to come together. And I think that hit us, and we're representing a school. Can we make it to the playoffs or not? We started just competing against how well can we represent us, the women's, the other sports, the 08 team, the 07 team, the 06 team, and the ones to come. So I think it's just this interdependency that will continue. And I think UMass Lowell with these leaders can continue to produce things like these.
I I have something that it's kind of funny, actually, full circle. I don't know if it was Christian, Ted, or Mark who said this, that brought up Sindoni about 2008. I know me, Walito Carlos played with Sindoni for a year. And actually, I was just at his wedding last week. So, like, that's just a perfect example of 2008. He played in 2008, played a year with us. You could see the way he was brought up in that program and the way he, as I said, he might have not been the most highly recruited guy, but as a freshman, I'm assuming he was a freshman then. He was in college forever, I guess. But but it's just funny to see that, like, even 5 years later, I played with him. I went to his wedding. These guys played with him 2008. We've never played together. So there is that connection that we could be 8 years apart in a championship, but like we played with the same people. Christian was a part of both teams. And that, I mean, not much has changed from UMass Lowell. There's kids on the team who are just like Alex and Donnie from when we were playing. So it's awesome to see, and it's awesome to see that they're still pretty successful and they're having good seasons. So hopefully once we get back playing, it'll just keep on going.
Yeah, just to jump in as well, it's as an old coach and somebody that had been around there but isn't around much these days, it's amazing to be able to watch all the games online. That year in 2016, I felt like every time I turned it on, Walito would score a goal and there'd be some sort of win. You guys had the ball all the time. It was, I loved it because I knew it was exactly the way Christian wanted to play and his style and the way he played as a player. That's a great link. The day that, let's say Christian isn't there and having that link to the old guys will feel like, something lost, where Christian being there, I think, ties it all together. Ted had been there for a very long time before he moved on to Holy Cross. And any of us that came in late, we got to know all of those alums, many really good ones from, there was a very good 2003 and 2004 team as well that some of you guys some of you younger guys might not know about, that I watched from afar as a fan as well before I joined. And I think it just really comes down to one of the big links. If I had to think of one word, it's mentality. And Christian brings that mentality. He brought it as a player and brings it as a coach. And it's nice to watch from afar online and see that sort of fight. I watched that BC game, I remember, and seeing that sort of fight, and to be able to, Ted must feel this times 10, but to be able to watch the team now, see it being in Division I, beat a team like Boston College, have internationals from Croatia come over and guys on scholarships, and winning recruits against big, ACC teams is amazing. It was unheard of or unthought of. During my time there was never a talk of going Division I. That only came later. So for you guys that are on the call from 2016, thank you for carrying us on and giving us some great memories from watching. And believe me, many of us watch from afar and still do. It's a joy.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate those words. And I think, Bob, I think we have some guys as well from that 2016 team that have joined us as well. We might be able to.
If you would like to highlight them, I would love to have you do so. And I think John Boswell is probably at the controls. So if you want to run down some names, we can do that.
Yeah, I see that Abel, I see him joining us as well. But Carter Hockman, see join as well. I see Jake just jumped over to the couch next to Eric. Great to see Jake. Who else we have here? We got Dario. Great to see Dario as well. We got Ivan Blaško and Jakub Basic joining us as well from Croatia. So they're up late. Well, Stanley, love the hair, man. Great goal the other night as well. Saw that. I think he's trying to keep up. Abra, he's trying to do, go for goal with you. So
my son Steven scored nicer than that one.
Yakov, as long as he doesn't have a bow and arrow next to him, everybody's safe. So these guys, honestly, it's been obviously just so great to have these guys as part of the program. And Dario, he just doesn't want to laugh, but he knows some things just don't change. And that's Yakov right now. For those of you who don't know, he's wearing the hat. I think that he got that hat while he was here in Lowell. Is that maybe not? I don't know. lot of things that he might have taken back. But you know, it's you know, we want to thank you for everything you guys gave to the program for the years you were here. You know, whether 16 was your first year, your second, your last. You know, Stanley, Blaschko, Dario, you guys were here just last year. Yakov, obviously, a couple years ago. So Carter, you know, finishing up with us in 2018. But everything that you know, that group brought, you know, there was never a day in training where these guys did not want to compete, didn't want to win. So the mentality, everything you guys brought has been great. But you know, one thing I would say, and I said it earlier, is the leadership you guys brought and you leave behind has been really helpful for us, because you know, we continue to move forward. Even though when you guys finish, we keep moving forward, and we have a very new team this year, and you know, a lot of new faces, and that foundation from last year is carrying on now. So it's been, we're grateful, you know, from that 08 team and on. It's been a lot of fun. So first, I'm really glad it's got. Okay, that's that night of, oh, that's the Vermont game. It looks like, right? Is that 16? Yakov, I don't know what picture that is.
Yeah,
it is. So Jake was here when you know, we finished third in the conference that year, actually in 2014, his freshman year. You know, so he got to experience a kind of a high in that first year he was here, with a little disappointment the following year, followed by 2 very strong years to finish it off. So, you know, a lot of guys that had the opportunity to witness some of that. Stanley, you got on board at the right time, you know, in 2016.
All right, a terrific group. Again, I want to thank our panelists from 2008, Matt Dubois and Ryan Richards, along with assistant coaches Mark Connolly, and it feels funny saying assistant coach Christian Figueroa, but that was his role at that time. Head coach Ted Priestley, who gave Lowell 12 terrific years. The 2016 group, Carlos Ruiz, Eric Martin, Ivan Abramovich, and Wilito Fernandez, and everybody else who was involved in this as well. I tip my hat to you. But for me, who went for soccer at least, is usually along the sidelines taking pictures, it's a delight to see all of you guys again and to listen to the stories and so on and so forth. Hopefully for those who have been out there, it has been as entertaining as I have found it. And I imagine it has been that as well. So at this point, I'll turn things over to John Boswell if he's got any reminders that about, I don't know, recordings or upcoming events or whatever, but it's an honor to take part in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob, and thank you to everyone who participated tonight, not just the panelists, but everyone we were able to pop on to say hello. It was great to see not only so many alums, but some future alums with so many future Riverhawks joining us from the first group. And, you know, thank you to everybody for the words. I think that, you know, it just speaks bounds to what the program is that Ted and Christian have created and lead today. So thank you, everybody, to join us. Coach Mira Novak and Dre Morrow from women's soccer were on the call. They're actually up next in 2 weeks if anybody wants to join on that discussion. And we look forward to seeing you on the sidelines again soon.